So we don't want you to get the wrong impression that we're spending a long time in the pub, but we're looking at the 2014 Super League season with John Kear and Craig Harrison. Let's focus now on some of the guys we're perhaps most excited to see, maybe some of the new incomers in the season. I think you've got to start looking at halfbacks because they obviously determine a lot of how a team goes in a season. Is the most significant signing Luke Walsh for St Helens?
Yes, I think it is. I think he might be the final piece of the jigsaw. I really do. I think Nathan Brown's made no... he hasn't hidden behind anything. He's got a big forward pack. And Huddersfield was interested, he went for an athletic forward pack, but I think he said, right, we're going with size this time to generate go forward. He's got James Roby to play off them, and then he's got a really good organiser. I mean, when I watched him play for Penrith last year, he's a good player. He can organise a team, he can kick a ball, and he's got lovely hands as well for those 3 quarters. So I think that's the vital piece of the jigsaw that's been missing. And I think St Helens are that little team who are going to be emerging from the outside and coming to the inner, and they might well be a nice little tip for Super League champions.
In terms of overseas players that sign in Super League, we tend to find that they're not normally regular first graders, but people like Walsh has nailed down a position at Penrith all season. So again, do you think that he is one of the most significant acquisitions?
100%. I'm like John, I watch it regular, and I think he's a good athlete as well. I think he's a cracking athlete. He looks like he's got a lot of determination. It does take him a little bit of time sometimes, so let's give him that. But I think once he's in there, he can play. I know when Danny Badira's came to Leeds, first 6 weeks everyone's like, you know, why is he this special? And everyone was questioning him. Every time you watch, by the end of the season, you just knew that the creamo was rising. And so I'm sure, like he said, when they're established over there and they've earned their reputation over there, as long as they're young enough to come here and still do this injustice, you know, I don't want to see the old ones come over because I want to give the young lads a chance. I'm banning it now, and that don't want to be talked about again. We shouldn't be bringing them over at 31, 32 when they've got dodgy knees and everything, but somebody like him's fantastic, and I'll pay to watch somebody like him, by the way. That's the difference.
Well, 26 years of age, you know, but it will be helped in settling in because Lance O'Hare has been here a couple of seasons now, so he's got the T-shirt now. The kid at fullback ain't bad, is he? Johnny Lomax. No, he's a nice guy to find on a sweep line round the back. And the guy who's giving him the ball from doing half ain't a bad player, is he either? James Roby. So I think that 9-7-6-1 combination is really good at St Helens, and I'm really excited about, first of all, Batley playing them a week on Friday in a trial game, but secondly to see them strutting the stuff in Super League.
In terms of the World Cup, we saw that in the autumn. I think we all bought into the fact that it was the best we'd seen. It probably exceeded our expectations, but one of the legacies that comes out of it is we get to see some of the players on a more regular basis. So somebody like Mossy Masso's coming over as well for St Helens. We're excited about him because he's big, but Wakefield signing of Peter Godinez is quite a big one again, talking of halfbacks.
He is, yeah, although he played most of his time as a hooker with the Warriors, and you know his game time was limited, but you just sense that what he's needed. We've talked about it a lot in this session, his opportunity, and Richard Agar's, I think, he's pinned his colours to the mast, and he'll need to be really good for Wakefield to have a successful season. But I believe that he was a good player for the Warriors. I believe he certainly did okay in the World Cup, so all the signs are there for him, and if he can get bedded into that system and structure down at Bellevue, I think they might surprise one or two people.
You mentioned overseas players that come over late in their career. If there's a reason for them to come over, then perhaps they're filling a gap for the youngsters that then come through. There might be a rationale, and you look at, again, Wigan. How do you replace somebody like Sam Tompkins? Is it a clever idea to get Matty Bowen in for a year to stabilise the ship and then bring some of the kids through?
There's nobody will know that better than Sean, because, as I say, it was so refreshing to see somebody play the youngsters, because he trusted them, because he'd spent 3 years with them. No, I don't. On the Matty Bowen thing, I'd like to watch Matty Bowen, so that's selfishly. Maybe he thought Hampshire and Lewis Turney weren't ready for that. I don't know. You'll know that one. My opinion from looking afar, I just say I'm a big believer in giving the young lads a chance. Bowen coming over for a year, obviously, must be to develop them 2 kids. It must be, because you wouldn't do it otherwise. I don't think he'd do that just for 1 year to stopgap the growth of the other 2 young lads. I saw Hampshire play. Thought they were fantastic. Can't play at 6 and at fullback, so I can't. You know, Bowen must be good to keep him. So the man in the know will be Sean Wayne on that one.
I'll tell you, Matty Bowen is good. There's no doubt about that. He's an absolute quality player, and they had to replace quality with quality.
Yes.
And obviously Sam Tompkins, I thought, was the best player in Super League, so they've certainly attempted to do that. But I think they've got one eye on the fact he's a seasoned professional, he's an experienced professional, and obviously the advice will be dished out to Turney and to Hampshire in order to help them develop. I think it's a really smart move, but he's a real good player, and he'll add a lot to Wigan.
In terms of experienced professionals who might make a huge difference to the dressing room that they're coming into, Gareth Carvel's a really big signing, literally and metaphorically, for Bradford this year.
He is, yeah. I mean, you know, we talk about players who've seen it and got the T-shirt. Well, Gareth has. He's had ups and downs in his career. You know, at Leeds he was released, and then he went to Hull. He had a great career. Went to Warrington, and he's got many trophies on his cabinet. So he really has emerged as a quality front rower. And I think his influence in the dressing room is going to be vital for Bradford with all the difficulties that they're experiencing at the minute, and they have experienced in the past year. I think Gareth Carvel is going to be absolutely vital to steady the ship and to take them forward. I mean, we spoke about halfbacks, but you need big fellas to go forward first, and he ain't a bad one.
In terms of, again, looking at a club like Warrington, where stability has been the key undertones, wherever he's gone, he's rarely had too many changes in his squads. It was the same at Leeds. Two that spring to mind for this year are complete opposite ends. You've got Roy Assetazzi sort of coming in and taking the Adrian Morley role, if you like, and Matty Rustler was another exciting talent in the World Cup playing for Scotland. Almost got a bit of a chance at Wigan, on loan at Hull, tried his arm over in Australia. Two really interesting signings, but very contrasting ones.
Well, yeah, I think you can throw Anthony England in there as well, because he's another one who we're all going to keep the fingers crossed for the Championship, that he goes and rips it up, which what Tommy's telling me about last month is he's got a hell of a chance. He's got everything right. Between all Matty Russell were fantastic in the World Cup. It'll be a different ball game now when you're playing and people are targeting you and they're spending weeks and weeks discussing what your weaknesses are. He's very in good ball. He looks fantastic. He'll get tested the other way now. The eye bombs will be coming down on the cold nights. So the question mark has to be on that. I hope it as well, because he excites me. Warrington have got a fantastic setup for any experienced man to come in. Roy Tozy again. I don't mind. You don't mind watching that. They're the good ones. If you're going to go and pay to watch somebody, but watch him. He's got a lot to go forward. He's done it. He's said he's got the T-shirt, and he looks like he's coming for the right reasons. So I'm in for all that. Again, if you go into a setup like Warrington, it's not so much a gamble. You've got to trust me on this. I hear the players' side. When you go somewhere like John mentioned, you might have to go to other clubs and you think, oh God, how am I going to fit in here? And the pressure's on them big players to perform. At Warrington, you're part of a cog.
Yeah. Well, Roy Assetazzi, I mean, he's a Kiwi captain, and I liked him very much. When I was fortunate enough to coach over at Hull, and we brought Stephen Kearney over here, and we had the best season that Hull had for a quarter of a century. You know, we came 5th in the league, laddie. We won the first playoff game, won the Challenge Cup, and Stephen Kearney was instrumental in that. And I think that's really smart, because obviously Adrian Morley's moved on, Gareth Carvel has, but Assetazzi will really fill that in very, very well indeed. But I think the biggest question isn't the fullback. I think it's whether Ratchford can take Breer's mantle. That's the big question, because Stephen Ratchford, very, very talented, but Lee Breers has been the talisman for years at Warrington, and it's the big boots to fill.
You mentioned Hull, one of your former clubs. Every season they seem to get another young Australian halfback. There's an issue there about whether or not they're producing their own, but they've gone with Jordan Rankin this time. Is he the answer that they've been looking for, do you think?
They'll certainly hope so. You know, Miller and Rankin, they'll be hoping that we're talking about it like we talk about firms of solicitors, that they dovetail together and they're very happy, and that it's been a seamless transition to some good rugby league. But they've tried all sorts of halfback combinations, you know. I mean, and I'll go back again to when I was fortunate to be there. There was Cook, Brough and Horn. That was a lovely little triangle, and I don't think they've replaced Danny Brough right from 2006 when they released him. Wrongly, I felt, but that was the club's decision. But I don't think they've replaced him yet, so they'll certainly be hoping that Rankin and Miller, the solicitors, will take Danny Brough's mantle.
Well, and is the third man maybe for them Gareth Ellis? Because obviously His season was disrupted last year with injury. He's bedded in, obviously, on the other side of his life. He's back over here after 4 fantastically successful years. His family is more settled. He knows the whole way of doing things. Should we be watching out for him?
Well, the big thing about Gareth Ellis, Phil, is the fact he's had a pre-season for the first time in donkey's years. It's a bit like Jamie Peacock.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's saying, well, how will Peacock go? Is it one season too long? Well, it didn't look it to me last year when Jamie Peacock played for Leeds. I thought it was outstanding, and that was because he didn't play international football. He had a full pre-season, and the reward was Leeds' reward. Well, this time Gareth Ellis hasn't played international football. He's had a full pre-season, and the reward may well be the black and white reward over at the KC.
Talking Leeds, they've made 2 major acquisitions, both of whom quality international players, Paul Ayton and obviously Tom Briscoe. Does that mean that, you know, what they may have lost last year in not getting to a final, they'll get back in 2014?
I think Mac obviously saw things in individuals last year. Obviously with Ayton, he's a competitor, can play 60-80 minutes at quite a high tempo. Mac likes to play his football when he gets it out pretty early. He's not wanting to play around there. It's usually, let's get it to your Watkins, your Maguires, the Bishops. I'd say he's got... coaches always use something. They always say, and John might use it, he'd say, you know, that's not a problem having 25 players to pick from. I think Mac's got his work cut out this year. You just mentioned Briscoe. You've got Briscoe, Ryan Orr, Bish and Zach Hardacre. Well, you know, 4 don't win to 3. So I'd like to see the reaction knowing the players I do is when one of them get the curly finger, it's how do you keep that guy happy, especially when a club like Leeds, when it's so competitive day in, day out. Paul Ayton and Rob Burrow. Rob wants minutes. Paul Ayton ain't come to play 20 minutes, I'll tell you now. So they're the questions, and I've said to Macca, you know, it's what you get paid for, and that's what they do at that level. But I tell you what, he's got some decision to make this year.
He has, but you won't fall 2 into 3, Craig, because you always want cover for loss of form, suspensions, injuries, etc. And I think Paul Ayton's going to be very good, no doubt about that. When he was used at Wakefield, he played 9, he played 13, he played right side second row, left side second row, so they can make sure Rob Burrow's out there as well, causing havoc, which he does do, but they can also make sure that Paul Ayton's out there as well, being a tough competitor, giving absolutely nothing to any of the opposition. I think it's a really astute signing.
And for everybody who comes in, someone goes out, so at Wakefield now they've got Paul McShane, who you would think will have every incentive to prove that he is the hooker that he certainly looked as a young academy international.
I've no doubt I've had Paul since he was 17, so and I'm very close to Paul. He's got it all to prove. He felt it was never got the shackles rose on at Leeds. He felt he couldn't play. He had to give it to the halfbacks very early, which takes away a lot of what Paul does. One of the reasons Richard sold the club to us, because he got 2 or 3 offers, was Richard said they'll play round him. They'll let him see it and he'll play as he sees it. Well, if you let Paul play as he sees it, you've got a hell of a player. I think he needs to, you know, again, back to the pressure. Can he carry a Wakefield side without having that pack? No, it's pretty impossible. So let's see what Wakefield got going forward. But I think he'll be a massive player this year. I think the other player there, who I loved last year, Danny Kirkman, I thought was just sensational. The way he played, the way I met him at a golf tour, and very professional guy as well, quite you know, intense, but a lovely way about him. So I think 2 massive players for them this year. There'll be them 2.
They will, and I think Paul McShane, I think he'll relish it, because as you say, if you've got Sinfield, Maguire and Burrow, it's pretty tough not to be overshadowed by them. But when you're the head-on show, which I think Paul McShane will be, I think we'll see that lovely left foot coming out from dummy half kick in. I think you'll see lots of creativity, and I think you had a little glimpse when he went on loan to Widnes, and he had a really good spell over at Widnes, and I think he had a little glimpse there of what he'll bring to Wakefield. And if he plays well, Wakefield will play well. Is
Scott Anderson a risk for Wakefield? Because he hasn't played at the top level for a couple of years, but when he was at that level, he won 2 grand finals with 2 different clubs.
Yeah, he's a good player.
So he's got the pedigree.
He has got the pedigree, but you've got to take risks. If your financial situation dictates it, which it may well be the case at Wakefield, you've got to take the odd risk. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't, but they'll certainly be hoping that one works out, because, as you rightly say, he is a thoroughbred.
In terms of risk, Brett Seymour one of the biggest risks this season that Castleford are taking by giving him a chance back over here?
Yeah, but they've covered the risk, haven't they? I mean, Sneyd and Dawn and Reynolds, who we spoke about, and Liam Finn, they've covered that risk. So if it pays off, it's a masterstroke from Daddle. If it doesn't pay off, he's already got his insurance policy there. So that's quite astute recruiting. But again, you know, he'll have to play a lot better than he did at Hull. He wasn't happy at Hull for whatever reason. He wasn't happy on the field. He wasn't happy off the field, and he never produced what he should have been capable of. We'll have to see if they can get it out of him down at Weldon Lane.
Hull KR are going to have a big pack. We've talked about size, and obviously Huddersfield went for that last year. Michael Wayman, another who didn't play a lot last year but has some pedigree. Justin Poor moving over from Wakefield. That's going to be a big pack you're going to have to try and get over when you go to Craven Park.
100%. I thought when Wayne Bennett were fantastic. I remember watching him for that 2 years. I thought, my God, he's got him at it. I thought last year he deserved not to play sometimes, because when I saw he didn't look that the one who were playing when Wayne Bennett were there. That were a different animal. If they can get his mojo back and they can play, listen, we want to see good players play some good rugby, and if they're Justin Poor, reminds me a bit like Ryan Bailey. You know it's going to come. It's just when when he played, I think he made his debut. I think I was there on Boxing Day. Maybe
yeah. He got sent off.
Well, I'm right. But
that was his best 20 minutes.
That's how it should be on Boxing Day. You know, it livens you up, and you come and you want to see a bit of X Factor. He's certainly done that. I think I've seen him twice playing twice. He's got the marching orders, so he's 100%. Can Hull KR? I think what John's just said. You've got to be able to replace Dobson, and that's just so.
That's the key.
I speak to a lot of my halfbacks, and a player knows another player. He always gets raps. Thomas Lulwai used to get it, so I said to lads, "What's he like?" You always got the same thing. I can play him. Dobson was the one. Who every time they'd say, "My God, he is quality." So I think that is a question mark. That well, I call it. I think it's impossible to replace him because he dictated too much of what was going to happen.
In terms of Widnes, I mean, they made some pretty significant signings last year to help them bed back in properly into Super League. So Kevin Brown will be even more influential, I would imagine, this year. They've lost Gareth Hock, but again, stability seems to be the key for Dennis this year.
Yeah, I think they're growing slowly, aren't they? And they're improving, and it's been an upward line all the time on the graph, and you've got to take your hat off to them for being patient with Dennis and believing in what he's doing, and also for the players sticking with him and his systems and his structures and how he's trying to develop the skills. So you've got to give them a pat on the back and think that they will improve again. But Joe Mellor was the man for me last year. I thought he was sensational for Widnes last year. Dennis Betts really got him playing to the maximum of his ability, and he'll need to reproduce that again. We've talked about second season syndrome with other players. Well, Joe Miller's got to really nail this season as well, because last season it really did show some shining lights to everybody who watched Widnes Vikings.
Another one for that is I couldn't believe we played against this guy when I was chairman of Doncaster, Phil Joseph. And if you'd have told me he'd be playing last year, and I went to the Warrington game and he was the best player, he actually brought it to the table. When it got a bit hot, he stuck the chest out, and suddenly Widnes believed, because he was stood there saying you, and he brought it. It was fantastic. If Dennis can do that with him, because I think everyone needs a bit of an enforcer, a bit of somebody who can. Well, he certainly brought it that day, and I thought last year he was fantastic. Walmsley got all the credit from the championship. He should have been given a lot of credit. From what I saw of him live, he was fantastic.
And then Dennis has given Luke Menzies, he's given young Hume as well an opportunity in these trial games, and I think it's throwing down the gauntlet. Look, we did it with Phil Joseph.
Yeah.
He emerged. Can one of you two guys emerge? And it'll be really interesting to see whether it works again, this opportunity for a player from a lower division to nail his colours to the mask in Super League.
What do we make of Salford? I mean, they're the team that probably will be under the greatest spotlight early on in the season. There's been mass change, total clear out, huge expectation, a lot of publicity, almost all of it positive, coming right from the very top. But how long does it take to put a team together? You can get some experience.
They'll get it top six, no doubt about it in my mind.
Right.
If you've got Tim Smith on one side, if you've got Rangi Chase, something's going to happen when you've got the ball, so that's ticked. You've got Brian Noble, he can coach teams to defend, believe you me. So I think if you get all those little things all mingling about and coming out with the right potion, I think they'll be really exciting. I just think this year is one of the most exciting Super League years for many a year, and part of the reason is because of the Red Devolution or whatever it's called over at Salford, and I really do think it's an exciting time for any Salford fans, because get out there, follow your team, get behind your team, because I think it's very exciting times for them.
Brian's done what he sort of did with Crusaders when he turned them into a playoff force. He's gone and got players that he knows can do the job for him. He still is investing in a little bit of youth, but the likes of Adrian Morley and Gareth Hock, you'd be foolish to not think they're going to do something this year with guys like that in the dressing room.
I do, but I love Mr. Kulkash. I think he's fantastic. I know we've got a funny, in rugby league we seem to down people. We don't like positive, we don't like people who bring it to the table. He does. He makes mistakes. When he first come in, it was like creek. You were looking and thinking, but I tell you what, I absolutely love his enthusiasm. I know what he did for racing, I know what he's done there. If he brings it here, the players they go in for, if he gets the ones, I think there's 2 more to come in, if they go and get them as well, you will see some fun. The top 6, 100%. Brian, I think Brian's the perfect person to handle personalities. That's the big thing. You talked about Tim Smith and Rangy. Well, I think they both like the ball, so I'm going to be absolutely funny how that's delivered. Now, if people say great players can play together, that's what's going to happen. You'll see, because I know when I watched Wakefield last year, Tim Smith did everything. It was like I'd never seen a bloke control a full game on what Richard were thinking went through him. Rangy had his own ball. So let's see. I think Brian's actually the perfect person to handle that, because he don't mind characters.
Well,
and
he's had Tim at Wigan as
he's
well.
Gone for Gareth. Gone for Gareth Hawk. He's gone for the ones more. There's going to be some character in that changing room, isn't there? That's a cert.
Some big characters, but also Adrian Morley is vital to them.
Yes.
Because Adrian Morley, he's an out. He's a warrior. Yeah. No doubt about that. You don't play at the level he's played at for as long as he's played and get the accolades he's got and the honours that he's got. He's a warrior, and I think he'll keep all these in check. Don't you worry. But Brian won't need to do it. Adrian Morley will keep them in check. And I think what you'll see Tim Smith getting them going forward, then you'll see the ball go wide, then you'll see the Rangy magic, then you'll see the Gareth Hawk offload, and then you'll see the Greg Johnson sprinting onto it wide out. I really do think it's very, very exciting indeed, and I'll be queuing up to see a Salford game. I really will, because I think the sparks will fly, and I think they'll shake Super League up. And I'm with you, Craig. Why badmouth a bloke who's putting his money where his mouth is? He's bringing money into the game. We need people like that to get the money, put it on the table, bring the personalities in there. And I think he's got a point about the salary cap as well. But I'll leave that to the RFL to discover.
I think if anything's come out of our chat, it's the fact that we cannot wait for this season to start.